I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street.
You know that 3 o'clock energy lag that everybody feels? Where normally you're reaching for a Coca-Cola or a Starbucks? Well, now you don't have to. Forget everything that you think you know about inhalation, and imagine a world where inhaled products are designed for health and wellness. Imagine inhaled products engineered to be free of toxins and instead provide a functional benefit with every breath. Well, that world is now. Introducing electronic caffeine from the good folks at Inhale Health. Inhalation allows caffeine to be absorbed instantaneously, providing faster effects than possible through beverages or pills. Instead of rushing to your favorite soft drink or Starbucks for a dump truck full of calories, now you can just reach into your pocket and pull out your disposable caffeine vape pen. Each 3-second inhalation introduces 16 micrograms of caffeine directly into your bloodstream. So finally, that midday burst of energy you're looking for is just a breath away. Each vape pen comes preloaded with 400 breaths, which is roughly a 1-month supply, and is already charged. You don't need to refill it. You don't need to recharge it. When you're done, simply throw it in the recycle bin and order another one. I love this product so much that I actually reached out to the company and asked them to sponsor my show. And they agreed. So here's what they're going to do. Every one of my listeners who goes to inhalehealth.com and orders any of their 7 different vape pen products is going to get a 10% discount plus free shipping when you put in the promo code FSP as in Fascination Street Podcast. So there it is, guys. That's inhalehealth.com, 10% off any of their 7 products, free shipping. Promo code FSP. So give it a shot. You'll be glad you did. Hi, everybody. This is Steve Owens from Fascination Street Podcast. I really appreciate your listening to the show. I'm having a lot of fun getting to talk to some really fascinating people, and I want to continue doing this, but I need your help. I need you to subscribe and tell people about the show. But the biggest thing you can do to help me is to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen through. As a special thank you, anyone who rates and or reviews the show, send me a screenshot as proof and I will mail you a set of 3 pair of silk cufflinks courtesy of my friends at Menlo House. You can send it via Twitter to @FascinationSTPD, via Instagram to FascinationStreetPod, or email me at FascinationStreetPod@gmail.com. I really appreciate all of you for listening and for helping. Thank you so much. Now let's get to this week's guest. Welcome back, guys. This episode is with Chef Damaris Phillips. Damaris is the Season 9 winner of the Next Food Network star. She also has a lifestyle website and brand called Bluebirds and Blackberries. She's a judge a lot on the Food Network's Guys Grocery Games. And she has a TV show on the cooking channel with Rutledge Wood called Southern and Hungry. In this episode, we talk about all of those things. Plus, we also talk about shooting her own show Southern at Home for the Food Network for a few seasons in Louisville. Of course, we talk about how she met her husband, who is a vegetarian, and her new cookbook. Also, I give her a really good tip on where to find a good quality, inexpensive seersucker suit for the Derby. Enjoy, guys. This is Chef Damaris Phillips. Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Hi, Steve. This is Damaris Phillips.
Oh my gosh, you need to sound more enthusiastic about who you are, Damaris.
This is Damaris Phillips.
Hi, Damaris. Thank you so much for calling me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. How are you today?
I am super fantastic. Ask me why.
Why is that?
Because I'm talking to you. Oh my gosh, you're amazing.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Okay, so before I get started, my wife gave me a message to pass on to you. And that message is, make sure to tell her that she is the best thing since sliced bread, even if that bread is homemade, still hot, and covered in melted butter. So we love you around here.
Thank you.
I will.
That's a very nice compliment.
So, welcome to Fascination Street. Damaris Phillips came to, I guess, the national food world's attention as the season 9 winner of the next Food Network star. That's where we fell in love with you. And at that time, we were about to move to Louisville from San Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were super, super excited, to see you on there and just be kicking ass and stuff. So that's where we fell in love with you. First, if it's okay, will you tell us, obviously you live in Louisville, but were you born there?
I was born in Louisville. I was born in Lexington, like somewhere between Lexington and Louisville. And then we moved. My dad was from Georgia, so we lived in Georgia for a little bit of time until I was about 6. And when we moved back to Kentucky, we moved to Louisville, and I've lived there since then.
Got you. What made you get into food?
I grew up in a family that we always cooked. And I went to school for a lot of things in college. But the whole time I worked in restaurants, or I worked in cafes or bakeries or coffee shops. And so eventually I realized, I should probably just go to school for culinary instead of trying to go to school for things that I inevitably, by the end of the semester, I was like, early childhood education is not for me. So that's how it happened. I really tried everything. And it just, the whole time I always cooked and always wanted to cook. And so when I decided to do it for a job, I went to culinary school.
Okay.
And then worked in restaurants. I mean, the whole time I was working in restaurants, I didn't know when I was a little kid that I wanted to be a chef, but I grew up in a family that they just were so excited about food, and they're still so excited and are adventurous about food that I just always thought that that's how everybody was. And my parents weren't professional chefs. They didn't do it for a living, and so I kind of just thought that cooking would always just be a part of your family life. I didn't consider it to be a career path. It took me a really long time. And then part of that was watching Food Network and realizing that there's a lot of different ways to let food be your career path. You don't just have to be a line cook. There are other options between being an executive chef. So you could also write cookbooks, or you could be a nutritionist. So once I realized that there were other options besides just working in restaurants, I decided, yes, I can do this forever.
Very cool. So I read somewhere or heard somewhere that for at least a brief period of time, you guys lived above a funeral home that your dad owned?
Mm-hmm. When I was in the 5th grade, in between the 4th and 5th grade, my dad bought a funeral home. And so we lived above it until I was in the 8th grade.
Being around funeral services and those types of, I guess, somber events where people tend to enjoy food a lot, do you think that maybe any of that helped inform your idea of what food can be or what food does, for families and for...
Well, yeah, so it is definitely, people, when they're grieving, definitely a lot of times people turn to food. We worked my dad's funeral home was in a neighborhood that was not the highest socioeconomic neighborhood. And so very quickly he realized that they would have these 12-hour funerals that would start at 9 a.m. and go till 9 p.m. But there wasn't always necessarily food for the family during that time. And so halfway through, I would get home from school and he would say, okay, we need to put a meat tray out, and we need to make a cheese tray, and you need to put a vegetable tray together, and we need to make a cookie tray. And so we started doing that with the family just as a way to comfort them and give them an extra service. And people always seem to, everybody loves a cheese tray, even when you're crying. It's not, everybody likes brownies. So definitely I always knew that it is an important part of the grieving process, food is. And still, if anybody passes away in Louisville, or I think anywhere, but I don't know because I've pretty much always lived within this region. But the minute somebody passes away, or somebody is sick, or somebody has a baby, or somebody is going through something, you show up with food always, because it's one of those fundamental things that you have to do even when you're heartbroken. And even when you're grieving, you have to eat. And so to try to give some sort of a creature comfort to people is, I think, just natural. Because what else are you going to do?
Right. I think that's a really sweet way to look at it. So let's shift gears and talk about something a little more uplifting.
Okay, go for it. You don't think that funerals are uplifting? You've been going to the wrong funeral. I'm just kidding.
I have
do
been
know a
going
woman.
I have been going to the wrong ones. Yeah,
What?
New Orleans, those are super fun.
There's a woman in Louisville who actually plans end-of-life celebrations. That does a really beautiful job. So instead of it being a traditional funeral, her tagline is, make sure that you're the life of your own party, even if you're dead.
Wow.
I know, but she plans, instead of it being traditional funeral, she plans these like very personalized experiences for the people in your life. It's a wonderful concept.
That's really sweet.
And totally uplifting.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So you won season 9 in 2013, and then you had a show called Southern at Heart, and it was on for how many seasons?
Yes. It was on for 5 seasons.
Okay, so did your life change? Because I know that you were an instructor at the same culinary institute where you got your degree.
Went to school? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it didn't change it that much at first because I still taught. So for the first year and a half or so, I was still teaching full-time and filming Southern at Heart. In Southern at Heart, you film in chunks, so a couple times a year I would film these chunks for Southern at Heart. But I didn't travel very much, really. I had Southern at Heart, and I lived in Louisville, and I taught culinary school, and it was it wasn't that different, honestly. So it really became different when I realized that I had to make a decision between being a culinary instructor and making food television. And so I decided to make food television because I love it. I love making food TV. I love getting to teach people on a broader scale. And so I decided to do that. And that's when you start traveling more. You start to be on more of the television shows, and you start to meet more people that are on Food Network or on Cooking Channel. And so that's when it really started to feel like it was different, was when I started to do more of the primetime television shows with everybody.
Got you.
And that picked up even after we stopped doing Southern at Heart.
Right. Did you have to make that decision because of time constraints? Like it was just too much?
Yeah, when you're a culinary instructor, you have to be in town Monday through Friday, and that's when everybody films. In television, people film Monday through Friday, just like normal jobs typically.
Right.
And so you have to choose between being in Louisville Monday through Friday or being able to travel and do shows like Grocery Games, which is filmed in Santa Rosa, California, or Beat Bobby Flay, which is filmed in New York, or whatever show it is. They're all filmed not in Louisville, unfortunately.
Even Southern at Heart wasn't filmed in Louisville, ever?
Southern at Heart was filmed in Louisville the entire time.
Oh, okay, because it looks like it was like a house in Lake Forest. Like, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it was filmed in Louisville over by Locust Grove. It's a real person's house.
Okay, cool, because it looks like a real person's house. And cool, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was filmed in Louisville, and I loved working in Louisville. Life was not that much different, truthfully, because I still lived in Louisville and I filmed in Louisville. It wasn't that big. Truthfully, for the whole time we filmed Southern Heart, life looked pretty much the same. I just made these television shows that came on Sunday morning, But life, it really wasn't that much different. And then once we stopped doing Southern Heart and I started doing more of the primetime shows and traveling, it got a lot different. It looks a lot different now, but it's fun. I still live in Louisville. I'm based in Louisville, and then I travel for work, and then I come home.
Gotcha. As a side note, I think it's the most recent issue of Food Network magazine, I think there's there's like a full page spread of your kitchen.
Yeah, that's our real house.
It is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, thanks.
It is beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, we really like it. It works nice for having people over.
Oh, it looks like it does.
So,
so how did Super Southern Eats come about? Are you friends with Rutledge Wood? Or
Rutledge and I met on Grocery Game, on Guy's Grocery Game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they changed the name from Super Southern Eats to Southern and Hungry, because we're some Southern people who are hungry, I guess.
Did it move? Like, is it Because I couldn't find it. Did it move to Food TV or Food Channel or whatever?
Oh, it moved to Cooking Channel. Yeah, it
Oh,
moved to Cooking Channel.
okay.
We did Super Southern Eats, and it was on Food, and then they moved it to Cooking Channel, and it's called Southern and Hungry. And so, it's a lot of fun. Rutledge is the most fun human in the world. Even on the worst day, he's a ton of fun. So we met on grocery games, and, when you sit and judge the competitions, you sit there through the whole cooking round, and you can see stuff and you comment on stuff, but also you just kind of hang out with people at the judging table, which is really fun, and you get to talking, and Rutledge and I got to talking, and we got to talking about food and Southern food and what makes it so good and our favorite dishes. And so that's all going on while people in the back are watching, because there's always a camera on you and you're always plugged in. So at some point they started watching Rutledge and I just riffing about Southern food, and they were like, wow, those two, that could be a great show. And so we agreed, and we wanted to show people the South, and the South that we're so proud of, and maybe a different view of it sometimes, and give voices to people who haven't got to tell their food story yet. And so that's what we decided to do, and it is a ton of fun.
So it's still going on? It's not over?
Yeah, no, it is not over.
Oh, cool. My cable provider doesn't have
Cooking?
Cooking channels. That's why I couldn't find it, I
Cooking
guess.
Channel, cable providers. Where are you living now?
Just outside of San Antonio in a small town called Bernie.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we were in Louisville for about a year and a half, and according to Louisvillians, it was the worst two winters in like the last 20 years. And so
yeah, because ours have been really easy since we had two really, really bad ones, and now they've been easy peasy.
That's what y'all all say, and I think it's just a bunch of BS. It's tourist propaganda.
No, seriously. We were filming Southern at Heart during that time, then when we got that huge, huge snow.
Yes.
I only remember how bad the winters were because that's when we filmed. One of the summer episodes were always filmed in Louisville in February.
Got you.
And so at one point it was, there was like a foot of snow, and it was supposed to be a summertime party.
So a long time ago, your dad was consoling you about a breakup, and he said something to the effect of, how can you expect someone to stand in your shadow or live in your shadow, something like that, and suggested that maybe you find a taller tree. Mm-hmm. Is Derek a taller tree?
I don't think he's taller. I mean, he's taller definitely than my exes, but he's not taller. I think we do a really nice job. We're really great at being an equal team. I think that the best part about finding a person that loves you for who you are is that they don't ever try to make you smaller. And so the greatest thing about Derek is that he is exceptional. He is kind and funny. He's creative. He's brilliant. He is warm and generous. Like, he is all of the things that you would want a partner to be. He's also incredibly inspiring. And so as big as I ever want to be or grow, or as high as I want to aim, he's always doing the same. And so it's nice because I don't have to. Sometimes it's difficult, like as a lady still, it's very difficult to be a career-driven woman sometimes in relationships. It can be, or has been before for me. And so it's nice to have somebody who is totally proud of my successes and tells me encourages me to dream even bigger.
How did you guys meet?
At a wedding. It was a carnival-themed wedding, vintage carnival. Everyone was encouraged to wear costumes. They had marquee lights and parasols hanging from the sky, and a fortune teller and palm readers and fire breathers and people on stilts. And they got married, on this stage that looked like an old theater with these big red velvet drapes. There was a talent show, and it was just very interesting. It was a very eclectic, very exciting wedding, and it was all outside, so it was different. It felt like magic. And I was watching the couple get married, and I realized as I was watching the way that the husband was looking at the wife that there are men that relationships are a priority for. I think sometimes like we're kind of taught to think that women are the ones that care about relationships, or women are the ones that want to get married. And it's in all of our sitcoms and stuff, it's just what you're taught. And from the time you're a little girl, you watch Disney movies, and it's what you think about. And so somewhere along the way, I started to really believe those things. Like I started to believe that men didn't care as much about getting married and being in a relationship and working and hoping to find love as women did. And so I was choosing men that fulfilled that. And then I was watching that guy, his name's Brad, and I was watching Brad look at Reagan, and I was like, oh, I have it all wrong. I'm just picking the wrong kind of guys. Like, there are totally men that are committed to partnership, and I just have to find somebody like that. So that was during the actual ceremony. We got done, and I turned around, and Derek is 6'4", so he's very tall. He has kind of gingery hair, and he had thrown his head back, and he was laughing, and I thought, oh, I know that guy. Because I thought it was this other guy that I'd met. And then I realized it wasn't him. And I said, oh, I'm going to go meet him. I'm going to go stand in his general vicinity and be charming. And if he's smart, he'll come and talk to me. Or if he's interested, he's definitely going to find a way to talk. And so I did. And at the same time, somebody was telling another guy about me and said, oh, there's a single girl, and she's the funniest woman you're ever going to meet. And Derek overheard that conversation. And so he said, I want to go meet the funniest woman I'm ever going to meet. And so he kind of meandered to find me at the same time when I was meandering to find him. We started talking, and we never stopped.
That is so precious.
I mean, it's a great one. It wasn't just like, it was like lightning struck, but definitely I was a little frustrated because I was so ready to be just my own person. And at first I was very frustrated by being in love. Like I was so frustrated. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to be thinking about this person all the time. Like I want to feel like just focused on what I'm doing. But instead I had this person that I was falling in love with, and, it was great. It ended up great.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Thanks.
I think that when you guys first started seeing each other, you would refer to him as your gentleman.
Mm-hmm. My gentleman caller.
Do you still call him that?
It's hard, sometimes now I usually call him my husband, but occasionally I do. Sometimes I'll still say he's my gentleman. Or it's kind of weird when you're, above 30 to call somebody your boyfriend. It just feels... It does, to be like, he's my boyfriend.
We're BFFs or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think that I've always liked the term gentleman caller. It just seems so elegant to me.
I agree.
So,
in a very Southern Belle kind of a way, it does seem.
It's for us Southern ladies who decided to not get married young.
Yes.
After a while, you have to start renaming the people you're spending your time with.
Well, my wife was raised in Mississippi, so I'm quite familiar with the southernness. It's quite charming. So, when you found out that he was a vegetarian, how come you kept seeing him?
Truthfully, because I didn't know that it was never in the history of all my dating had it turned into being a husband. So that's the truth. I just kind of thought it wasn't going to matter. I was like, whatever, we'll date for a little bit and then we're going to break up, because that's what I had only had experience with, dating people and it not working out. So I kind of thought, I didn't think that it was going to require the amount of compromise. And when I did think about that, I was like, oh, I'm definitely not going to do this. Like, he told me the first night during our first dance, he asked me what I did for a living, and I told him. And he said, oh, I love to cook. I cook at home a lot. I'm a vegetarian. And I paused and I said, oh my gosh, it was going so well. Because it just wasn't part of who I was. I worked in restaurants. That was how I kind of wooed the gentleman. I would cook him dinner, and it would be like short ribs or if it's summertime, I would make like a foot-long BLT or whatever. That was my game. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh man, I don't even know what I'm going to make this guy. Like, okay, whatever. But I thought it didn't matter because I didn't think he was going to be my husband. So I thought, okay, I'll not change and he'll not change and we'll date. And then inevitably our differences will probably end up splitting us up, because who wants to not have turkey at Thanksgiving? And who wants to not have sausage gravy on Saturday mornings, you know? But by the time we needed to make those decisions, I was in love. And when you're in love with somebody, suddenly what you're eating matters less than who you're eating it with.
Ooh, nicely said. I like that. Well put.
Oh, but I mean, it's really the truth, though.
It absolutely
like, what, I'm
is.
going to eat pepperoni pizza by myself? Come on. I'd rather just eat cheese pizza with him.
You know, that's one of the biggest things about, because my wife is a vegetarian also. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions about specifically vegetarians and pizza is that vegetarians don't have to have just a whole ton of veggies piled up on a pizza, because a cheese pizza is a vegetarian pizza and it's just as delicious.
It's so good. Honestly, cheese pizza is probably the best pizza. Honestly, you get the most pureness of pizza with the cheese pizza. Everything else is fun, but like cheese pizza, there's not a thing wrong with it.
I love meat almost as much as the next guy, but the best pizza I've ever had in my whole life was a cheese pizza in New Jersey. I mean, just cheese. That's it. It was great. And we've gone back to that place several times just for the pizza.
Cheese, I think that there's a lot of art and skill in the sauce and in the quality of the cheese and in the quality of the dough.
Of course.
And sometimes I think that we use meat as a way to, it's almost like a cheat, because it is so salty and fatty, and it does trick our little lizard brains.
Right.
Into being like satiated. It's like, oh my gosh, this is great, salty. But when you kind of step away from that instant gratification and then really work to build the flavors, you end up with products that are just outstanding.
Yes, you're not wrong. Obviously, you're not wrong, instructor, chef that you are.
Well, I don't know about that. Everybody has an opinion.
Yes,
I'm sure people think mine is not correct.
No, nobody thinks that. Those people are crazy. So you have a cookbook out fairly recently called Southern Girl Meets Vegetarian Boy. Was it hard to adapt some of your recipes to vegetarian?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Is it hard to make a good veggie burger? Yes, it is. It's super hard. And you know what it was? I got so frustrated. Like, I think that there's a misconception, too, about vegetarian eating, is that if you're a vegetarian, you want to eat vegetables all the time. But that's not true. Vegetarians just want to not eat meat. And so there are whole, like, comfort food, like tons of recipes that are just getting left out and forgotten because they're not made with meat. But the thing is like, the more that I dove into Southern cooking and the more that I understood the way that we cooked and why in the South we cooked the way that we did, the more that I saw that typically the meat portion of many recipes was just used as a flavoring agent. So if you think about beans, the majority of the protein is coming from the beans, and then they're flavored with ham hock because you would have had it and you didn't throw stuff away, or a little bit of jowl bacon because it's so salty and you had a little piece and it would add some fattiness and some richness. You make biscuits and gravy because really it's just flour and a little bit of milk for both of those things, and then some fat. And if you have lard or if you have a little bit of sausage, a couple ounces of sausage, that's enough to feed a whole family. So when you really look at those recipes that we think of as through and through Southern, many, many times the proportion of meat to entire dish is pretty low. And so I realized that, and I was like, oh. So I just need to be able to replace the meat with something that mimics what the meat was bringing to the table, right? And so the things that became very, very difficult are when you take and you have an entree that is a piece of meat. But those are, I mean, at least growing up for us, we didn't have steak a lot. We didn't have huge portions of meat because it was really expensive when we were kids. And that's all changed a little bit, and now it's cheaper to buy chicken than it is to buy carrots, which it should help everybody ask the question of how can a carrot be more expensive than a chicken? But we're not all asking those questions, and so it is easier for people to eat a lot of meat. And so when I wanted to replicate that, when I wanted to replicate a burger, it was hard. It was hard to make meatloaf. It's hard to make meatballs. But, man, those are some things I loved as a kid, and I wanted, if we ever have a family, I want to share those recipes and share those memories with my kids and with my husband. Because, like, growing up, my dad was a weird eater. He really was, like, one of those people that could eat the same thing on the same day, and that brought him a lot of comfort. And so on Saturday nights, we always had hamburgers. It was our big meat of the week. We always had hamburgers on Saturday night. And so I couldn't imagine growing old but not being able to share that tradition with my family. And so I had to adapt it. And it came out really good. It's not like I'm not mad at it. There is no part of me that feels depraved ever. I just feel like, oh, this is different, but it's delicious. And for me, I eat delicious food. That's my number one. That is where I go to. I'm like, is it delicious? Well, then that's what I want to eat. And so as long as I'm eating delicious food, my main thing is not like, is there meat in it, is my first question. And then is it delicious? No, my first question is it delicious? And if it's delicious, then nothing else really matters to me as far as like feeling like I'm missing something.
Well, I mean, that makes 100% sense. My wife, several of her favorite places to eat, even though she's a vegetarian, are steakhouses, because even though they're primarily focused on steaks, they know that if they do offer a vegetarian dish, it has to be amazing. And so every time we go to a steakhouse and she orders whatever the vegetarian special is, and I have some of it, it's better than what I'm eating almost every single time.
I just think that if you think about a piece of unseasoned, improperly cooked piece of meat. So let's say you take a steak and don't season it and then boil it. Why would vegetables be good if you did that to them? Why, if you just took some broccoli and didn't season it and didn't put any fat on it and boiled it or steamed it, why would anybody be raving about that? It's never going to happen. So it's more about like cooking techniques and the fat that you're adding and the seasonings that you're adding with any type of food. And the truth is the majority of us just have more experience with cooking meat. And so of course I made a lot of really terrible vegetarian food. I mean, really terrible, because I just didn't have as much experience with it as I had cooking, meatloaf. When I first tried to make a nut loaf, it was disgusting. And then I worked at it, and I tried, and I thought about it, and I tried again. And, the more comfortable you are with anything, the better you get at it. It's like any type of cooking.
Well, I think that's
But
awesome.
now, seriously, I would go against anybody in the vegetarian field. Like, in Southern cooking, I've met at least 10 grandmothers that would, in about 4 minutes, cook me under the table. Guaranteed. But in vegetarian Southern food, I would put myself pretty high. I'm like, okay, listen. I can't do it all. But in this field, I can really dazzle people.
Nice. Let's talk about bluebirdandblackberries.com. What's that?
So Bluebird and Blackberries is my passion project. I wanted to create a lifestyle brand blog, like you see all the time lifestyle blog. And I wanted to create one, but one that didn't make me feel bad when I read it. So I was finding that I would get onto lifestyle bloggers' blogs sometimes, and I would come away feeling, after I'd compared myself, because that's what we do, unfortunately, or at least what I do, I compare the way I organize my house, or how well my house is decorated, or how pretty the party looked that I threw, or the way that my packages look when they're wrapped, Or did I have the perfect favors for that baby shower that I threw? And I would come away from it feeling less than. And the people on the blog seemed like incredibly talented and incredibly smart and put together and grown up and wise. And I thought to myself, like, is this the truth? And I realized that for a lot of people, like, that's not the truth. That is a job that we do. So even bluebird and blackberries, like, I put effort into making bluebird and blackberries, but I wanted people to be able to feel real success when they try to do our challenges. I wanted to show a little bit more vulnerability with the whole process. So not being as focused on, did I throw the perfect Christmas party, but the whole process of throwing a Christmas party and what my intentions are for that. And so we came up with different categories, and I invited 3 of my close girlfriends who were all in the food world to help me with it. 3 women who all have a different point of view with food, but then also they're at different points in their life than I am, so that we're getting, different angles about how to live. And then we wanted to be really intentional with what we're asking, because the truth is I believe that I lead a life that is very fulfilling, and that life is always centered around the people in my life. It's always about loving people and being connected to people. And I believe that that's a gift that I have, and that anybody who is able to have their life directed and led by loving people and connecting with people, that's a real gift. And so if we can give people tools to do that, to help remind us that the truth is we just need people. And we don't have to throw like a perfect dinner party, and we don't have to have the perfect outfit. We don't have to be good at everything. We just have to try and connect with people. And so that's what the whole website is about, is finding challenges that people may do in their life, but hopefully it helps them become closer and more thoughtful and more intentional with the way they're spending their time.
That's beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you.
I think that's a really sweet way to look at relationships, and like you said, parties. It's not so much about what's at the party; it's about who you're talking to or what you're talking about, or the connection that you're making, and even small dinner parties or whatever. I think it's sort of that same concept you talked about of how it doesn't really matter what you're eating; it's more about who you're eating it with. It's kind of that same
100%.
Yeah, it's that same underlying. I love it. That's great.
But it's hard because with social media, and especially with Instagram and things like that, they're great. They're totally cool, but it's a snapshot and it's a second. And you can't snapshot joy. Like, you can't stop people in the middle of creating memories and be like, hey, guys, hold on. That corn dog party looks like so much fun. Let's Instagram it. And so what ends up happening is you see imagery of what happiness is supposed to look like. There's no substance behind it. And so our intention is to just create the substance and to remind people that it's not about what it looks like. It's about how it feels.
Well,
that's what we,
that's
and
perfect.
It's my closest friends, and it's getting to work with women and showing friendship and female friendship, giving really good role models for young girls on what friendship looks like, instead of it being comparative and instead of it being competitive, it being something where we grow and energize each other and respect each other and are not made smaller by other people's strengths.
What are these ladies' names?
Nikki Dinky, she was on my season of Food Network Star, season 9. Tara Nelson. Tara was actually my culinary instructor at baking. So she's a baker, and she lives down in Nashville now and works at a place called Butcher and Bee. She did a little bit of food television, too. She was on the very first time they did the Christmas Bake Off. She was on that show.
Oh, okay.
And then the last woman is a woman named Rebecca Smith, and she is one of my oldest and dearest friends. Like, when you imagine being an old person with somebody, Rebecca will always be next to me. She's also the friend that, like when you have a friend that you all like to do the exact same things. She's that exact same friend where anything I think sounds fun, she also is on board. So she is a vegan chef here in Louisville that does baking, but also helps me recipe test a lot of the time. So for making Southern Girl Meets Vegetarian Boy, the person that helped me recipe test probably every recipe was Rebecca.
Oh, cool.
Like, I'd be like, Becca, how are these meatballs? And she'd be like, you can do better. And I'd go back to the drawing board, and then she would be there and taste them. And when I finally got her to, because she has not been vegan for forever. She was, traditional eater until about 5 years ago. And so she was incredibly helpful, just having a palate and having somebody else who was a meat eater. Like Derek's been a vegetarian for 30 years, so it's hard for him to know what meatloaf tastes like.
Right.
And so having Rebecca there, and we still, whenever I recipe test, she's still there. She goes on all of when we do trips and demos, she's the person that goes with me to do all of those.
Well, that's awesome. And it sounds like that y'all have a lot of fun doing that together, all of you ladies.
Oh my gosh, you can't, the challenges all the time. At first, it's a real struggle to let people into your insecurities and to let people into your failures. It's just not something that's modeled a lot in a productive way, any of it. So it's interesting trying to find that happy place of being successful and celebrating those successes and being professionals in this field. But then also, I can be a professional, but then also my kitchen looks like a disaster if I try and make something in 20 minutes. It just does. It looks like something exploded.
Right.
And so I try and show those pictures. I just imagine somebody at home with 3 kids and who works 9 to 5, and they come home and they're trying to make a birthday dinner for their husband, and you get online and you see all this stuff. And that's a disservice to that lady if I don't show that. In that same instance, I would probably order Postmates. We're all just trying our best,
That's awesome. Bring a touch of the real world to all this glamour and beauty. That's awesome.
I don't know. I sure like people, and I think that I never meet somebody who seems perfect and think, wow, I really like that person. I always meet people that have quirks or differences or have been through their own struggles that make the person wildly unique. And those are the people that I always think, wow, I really like that person. So I thought, maybe we should all quit trying to be perfect.
Well, you said that you like people, that you really like people. And I think that you do, because you didn't know me. You still don't know me. But a few years ago when we first got to Louisville, I didn't really know anybody in Louisville who had any idea of where I might eat. And so I tweeted at you for a couple of restaurant suggestions, and you gave me 3, and one of them was not our favorite, but the other 2...
Which one was it? Tell me.
The one that was not my favorite?
Yeah.
It was the Queen of Sheba.
You don't like it? Oh, that's okay. That's my favorite recipe. People either like Ethiopian food or they don't like Ethiopian food. It's really one of those things.
I think that when we went, we weren't really sure what to expect, and they nailed it. They nailed it with us not knowing what to expect. I mean, they were spot on.
Oh, were they not helpful? Sometimes they can be a little snarly.
Well, they were really, really busy. There was a wait, and I think they were a little too busy to kind of deal with some newcomers who didn't know what the heck was going on.
Yeah, you know what? From now on, though, thank you for this. If I give that as a suggestion, I'm going to also suggest what to order.
I think that would be fantastic.
Because, when you look at the menu, you're like, I don't know what Kikwat is. I don't know what Dora tips are. I don't know what Dora Watt is. I have no idea what's going to happen when food comes out.
Yep. That was
okay, good to know.
That was
our
our biggest hurdle, I think.
Great.
The other 2, every single time we're anywhere near Louisville, we go to both of them.
Okay, what are they?
Well, one of
Mayan
them
Cafe?
is what? Oh, say it. What?
Oh, I said Mayan Cafe.
No. So one of them is Harvest, which you used to work at, right?
I did. I worked there for a couple of years.
That place is amazing because I think everything that they use comes from, I don't know, within 100 miles or something like that. Everything's pretty local. Plus, it's really close. I think it's maybe 2 doors down from a really good wine and bourbon store.
Mm-hmm. And then did you ever happen to go into the candy store that's there?
Yes. What's it called?
Muse Candies. They have the best candy in the entire world is made in that store. I'm not kidding. It is, actually it might not be the best candy in the whole world. Let's be real. But it is the one candy that when I start eating it, I have no ability to stop eating it. It's just so good you want to die.
They have this kryptonite called Majescas.
Those are what I'm talking about.
Oh.
That's the candy I'm talking about.
Those are ridiculous.
They're so good. There's no way to explain. Like when you hear it's a marshmallow wrapped in caramel, you think, okay, whatever. And then you eat it and you're like, okay, I'm ready. I will trade you this newborn baby kitten for that bag of Majestic.
Yes.
Just let me know.
You are correct. I mean, it's not just a marshmallow and caramel. It's a homemade marshmallow covered in homemade caramel, and it is ridiculous. We have a friend who lives there, and that's the only thing we have them shipped to us is those.
If you? Oh, my gosh.
Oh, they're amazing.
They're so good.
They're absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I started taking them home, and I'll, like, warm them just a little bit, either by, like, throwing them in the microwave for a couple of seconds, like literally 3 seconds, or I'll take a torch to just the top to, like, just get the caramel a little bit tacky, and then I put salt on it.
Ooh.
Really good. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, it's really good.
Gonna have to try that. Use some of that Malden salt flakes.
Especially the smoked one. Have you tried the Malden smoked?
We have not.
Salt.
We just discovered the Malden regular.
Yeah, so the Malden is absolutely delicious. They have that same one where they've smoked it. And so you get these smoked sea salt flakes that are unbelievable.
So my wife travels a lot for her job, and once we discovered those Malden's sea salt flakes, she carries a container of those with her now.
Oh, I like her.
Oh, you would love her.
You don't want to add her salt because you feel like people are it's gonna hurt their feelings, and then sometimes they give you table salt, which doesn't taste as good as crunchy, kind of tangy, super salty Malden.
Yes, the crunch. It's just so it's awesome.
It's the crunch on top of brownies. Have you ever made brownies but sprinkled it on the top of the batter?
Yes.
And then it bakes up, and so you get those little nuggets of salt explosion.
It is.
It's just too much.
It's ridiculous. And then the other place is the Holy Grail. Is that still open?
Oh my gosh, yes. And did you ever go to Grail House, which was they opened
behind it? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that place too.
Yes, you do.
They have the best egg and cheese biscuit that you can find in Louisville. Well, if you're like, hey, where am I going to get these biscuits? That's where.
Well, the best thing that I had there, I guess I'm sure that it's seasonal or whatever, but they had this pickle tray, and you expect it to be just a bunch of pickles, but there wasn't a cucumber on that tray. There was pickled grapes and pickled tomatoes and just everything, like the craziest things, pickled peaches, like the most insane things that you would never think to pickle, and it was amazing.
And when you have that moment of something being totally unexpected and it arriving, and you think, like, oh, yeah, I know what a pickle is, and it gets there, and it's totally unexpected, and you're getting to try all of these different fruits and vegetables that are now pickled, and you realize, like, oh, the world of pickling just got very interesting. You have two wonderful things happen. One, you are absolutely in the moment, eating those pickles and eating those pickled grapes and eating pickled peaches. Like, how often as adults do you get that experience of having something be totally new? That is, I think, one of the things that chefs get to do. And then it just opens everybody's world up. So now you've had this experience where you create a memory, and then the flip side of that is now you've created curiosity in people. And as adults, less and less, we have those moments. And so as a chef, I think that's one of the most important jobs, is that you get to kind of remember and remind people what it's like to be a little kid.
You're not wrong. It's like by the time you're an adult, you kind of figure out where the horizons are. And so, and then when you stumble upon something, like a pickled grape or something, now like up is down and left is right. And you're like, what is going on? I didn't even know this was possible. And so it kind of opens you up, like you said, to curiosity about, well, what else can be different, or what else can I pickle, or whatever? What else is out there?
And the different types of pickling, like pickling in the South looks different than if you're talking about Asian pickles. How do they do that different? The truth is like, we don't know. We think that we get done with college and now we know, and like we're done with our learning. But the more we are curious and the more we're open to not being experts at everything, the more likely we are to lead one of those totally fascinating lives where you just go down the rabbit hole. And you're like, I don't know, I was looking up pickling and we ended up in Thailand. Let me tell you how.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things. Our son went through culinary school, and
Yeah.
at Le Cordon Bleu before I guess they got kicked out of the country. Unclear what happened there, but
Yeah.
so it was one of the coolest things to see when he was going through culinary school was the curiosity and just seeing him discover and stumble on new things and being able to do things that he never thought about. That was one of the coolest parts of it for me.
Like the moment when you realize that risotto is a technique and not a rice,
Right.
and that tons of stuff can be cooked in that way, it's just magic. I think that's why I like cooking so much. I mean, everybody likes to eat too, so everybody's always happy with you. But it always constantly allows you to be curious and creative and interested. For me, that's what makes a day a really good day. Is when at the end of it, you're like, wow, I learned something new, or I did something different, or I am different going to bed than I woke up this morning, and I can recognize that.
It's those mind blown instances.
I mean, when you realize you don't just have to put salt and butter on popcorn. What? Like, Derek puts wasabi on our popcorn sometimes, and the first time he did that, I was like, gosh, you really are a genius. You really are.
I was watching a movie a long time ago called Poetic Justice with Tupac Shakur and Janet Jackson. And Janet Jackson put Tabasco sauce on her popcorn. That changed my life.
Did you try it?
Oh, that's my favorite way to eat popcorn. Like, I want to smuggle Tabasco sauce into the movie theater. You
should get those itty-bitty tiny ones that you get in room service.
Ah.
And bring them in. Aha.
Uh-huh.
Here's a little piece of truth. I always smuggle food into the movie theaters.
Really?
Yeah, even like a sandwich. Especially if we're going with a group of friends, I pack a whole treat box. Derek's favorite is to get samosas from Indian food. And he'll smuggle in samosas, which is the most hilarious thing to try and eat in the movie theaters.
Is that like those little potato pies?
Yep. Absolutely. But if you're sitting in a movie and somebody hands you a warm samosa, come on.
Yeah, no kidding. It sounds fun partying with y'all.
Oh. Just food-centered fun.
So, as we're wrapping up, there's just a couple of things I want to ask you before I let you go. You've been very generous with your time, and I appreciate it. Our favorite show on the Food Network right now is called The Bobby and Damaris Show.
Oh, yes.
And...
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And if I understand correctly, that show is nominated for a James Beard Award.
It is. The show is nominated for Best Television Show in Food. But that doesn't mean me. That means, the show.
Right, like the producers or something?
Yeah, it's like the production company. It is, instead of it being, so you can get a James Beard Award for being an outstanding host in food television, or the show itself can get a nomination for being an outstanding show. I feel very proud of because I feel like I get to be a small part of it, but it also feels great because it acknowledges all the work that gets done behind the scenes of all the people that, use their time and talent and creativity to make something that's special.
Okay, so Bobby's cat, Nacho?
Yes, Nacho Flay.
Now, I believe Nacho has his own Twitter and or Instagram account. Are you going to...
He does have his own.
Are you going to make one for Florence?
No. Florence is not really the kind of kitty that is in the spotlight like that. So we have two indoor kitties named Pearl and Cleopatra. And then we recently took in Florence, and she had her 3 babies. I can barely keep up with my Instagram. I do all of my social media on my own without help from anyone. And so, it would be wondrous if I could get my Instagram together and also Florence's, but I won't be able to. But I do like to post her on my page because people love cats.
Yes, people do love cats.
God, they love cats.
It's crazy. So when will we find out whether the show wins?
Yeah, I think that they announced on April 27th for the media awards.
Oh, cool.
So it's pretty soon.
Very cool.
I
know that you love a bargain, because you love to shop.
Go to bargain hunt all the time, and I talk about it, how I go to flea markets and thrift stores constantly.
Yes. And so you're probably aware of this bargain, but I stumbled upon it last year. So when we lived in Louisville, I always wanted a seersucker suit.
Yeah.
I kind of grew up poor, and so it's really hard for me to feel like it's okay for me to spend like a chunk of money on, a seersucker suit that I'm going to wear rarely. But after the Derby last year, I was in Columbus, Ohio with my wife, and I needed a shirt for some event or whatever. And so we ran into Steinmart.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was, I guess, past the Derby, Steinmart had seersucker suits on clearance. And when I say clearance, check this out. I got a seersucker jacket for $15 and the pants for $7. So I walked away with a seersucker suit for $22 or whatever the math is.
That's unbelievable.
Right. So put that in your little head and keep that going. Because
yep, now I'm gonna tell somebody. I'm gonna be like, actually, I know a guy who got a seersucker suit for $22. Because
right.
In the thrifty bin world, people like to talk about their finds.
Right.
Like my sister time will be like, "You like this? I got it for 90 cents," and I'm like, "Great."
That's awesome.
And
but
I'm gonna have to check out the Steinmart. I'm so thrifty that I've started renting clothing.
Wow.
Because I noticed these clothes that require you to dry clean them.
Right.
So even if you get it at a bargain, you have to take the dresses in to get them dry cleaned.
Right.
And dry cleaning is about, $12 on a dress.
Yeah.
So I started renting dresses where it's unlimited rentals for the month, and it's about $60, and you get 4 items of clothing that you get to constantly rotate out, and they dry clean them. You send them back dirty, and they dry clean them for you.
Oh, that's cool.
So I know. I just rent them, I wear them, I send them back.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Plus, it makes it so I don't have a bunch of stuff. I don't like to own a bunch of clothing.
Yeah.
And you have to take care of it. It piles up.
I didn't like to own a bunch of clothing, but now for some reason I do. So like every time I go to Steinmart all the time just to see what's on clearance, and they have a lot of, Lord Honey, Jason Smith.
Yep.
They have a lot of jackets that are in his style and then maybe, more muted.
But that's a good time because that means you're going to stand out at the dinner party.
And I do. And so I've got, I don't know, like 7 or 8 sport coats that are wildly standoutable. And then, they had on clearance like these bow tie sets. And so now I've got a few bow ties and, some lapel pin. Like I just have all this, I want to say Southern dandy, Southern gentleman type of stuff. And so I wear it all the time. Like
That's great.
We'll go to a black tie event or whatever. And I'm wearing, like an orange jacket with a bow tie and orange Chuck Taylors. And I mean, I still am dressed appropriately, but it is a little eye catching.
But you know what people think when they see you is everyone thinks, oh, he looks like he's going to be fun. Or, oh, he looks interesting. Like, I think that when I was a young kid, I also grew up without a ton of money. And so for me, for a long time, it was about fitting in and making sure that I felt like I had the right clothes so that I didn't stand out. Because when I was little, sometimes I stood out because it wasn't the right clothes.
Right.
And so for a long time, I was always like, oh, I hope I got the right thing. Like, I hope I'm wearing what is appropriate. And then once you get beyond that, you start being like, oh, this could be really fun. And like, it's kind of actually more fun to stand out in a by choice way. That's when fashion, I think it's super, super exciting.
Hey, it's a lot of fun. And like you said, it does make people say that guy might be fun or whatever. And so it starts a conversation. Even if that conversation is, man, I wish I would have thought of wearing sneakers because that's going to be way more comfortable.
Exactly.
Then it's a conversation starter.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun.
Exactly.
So keep Steinmart in their clearance section on your radar.
When I go, I'm going to tag you with my finds from Steinmart.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. And they have a pink and blue seersucker. They got them both.
Derek would look really nice in a pink one. I'm going to go talk to him about his Derby Oaks plan.
So when we lived there, we were like, hey, should we go to the Derby? And then all of the people who had been there for a while, they were like, no self-respecting Louisvillian goes to the Derby. We go to the Oaks.
Yeah.
And so we went to the Oaks.
Yeah, that's what we go to.
It was so much fun. And Bobby had a horse, which I lost money on. But he had a horse in that race. And I was like, this is amazing. This is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
It is fun. It is a lot of fun. And then that whole week is so much fun. So, and there's a million different ways to do it, even if you've been once. Like, I think that everybody starts out going fancy, and then the more you go, the more you kind of get into the weird kind of counterculture that goes along with the Derby and what the culture in the neighborhoods that surround Churchill Downs. I mean, it is just alive with activity and fun and food and dancing, all surrounding the track too. So there's a ton. It's just a great time in Louisville.
It really is. Oh, we had a lot of fun. And, before we moved to Louisville, I was a big Jack Daniels drinker. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to Louisville, and I can't tell you the last time I had Jack Daniels because now it's all bourbon all the time. And my bar in my house I found this, they called it a bird cage. I don't really know what it was supposed to be, but it's like this 3-leveled, I guess, cage. I'll send you a picture of it, but it's like this 3-leveled cage that has these kind of twin spires on it that reminded me of Churchill Downs. And so I bought it, and that's where I keep my bourbon. And so, like, at all times, I have no less than 30 different bourbons all the time.
That's awesome.
It is so much fun. And I'm just looking at the calendar, waiting for my barrel of Maker's Mark to be ready so I can go get some.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It is a lot of fun.
Well, that's not a bad thing to wait on.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so, again, thank you so much. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
At Chef D. Phillips.
On everything?
Yep. I have a Facebook page, but it's a whole debacle right now. I don't actually have it. Somebody else owns it, so I can't even delete it. It's been a whole thing. But there is one on Chef Damaris Phillips. But it's been spamming out some very interesting things lately. So maybe just skip that one. It's pretty funny, though, man. At first, I was like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. Just because you don't have any control over what is being sent out. And then the longer I don't have control, the more I'm just like, well, it's actually pretty comical. Like I literally can't do anything about it. I can't even delete it. So I just kind of have to accept it. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I wouldn't necessarily have to reposted that.
That's awesome. And so everybody run out and get her cookbook, Southern Girl Meets Vegetarian Boy. There will be a link in the show notes. So just scroll down on this episode and you will find all of her social media tags. There will be bluebird and blackberries.com, the link for that, and the link for her new cookbook.
Oh, I guess I should have mentioned Bluebird and Blackberries has an Instagram.
Oh,
well, follow that one.
Yes.
That one's great. That one's more interesting than my personal one, honestly.
Well, that will also be in the show notes. Thanks for pointing that out. And then one last question. Have you ever tried this cocktail called a Halle Berry?
No, what is it?
Okay, so a Halle Berry is gin, Cointreau, and the most important part, the Halle and the berry, is muddled jalapeno and blackberries.
Oh, that sounds delicious. I would make it with bourbon or maybe tequila, but I'll try it with, you said it was rum or gin?
Gin. I'm not a fan of gin, and so when I do make it, I use like Hendrick's gin because it's the least ginny flavored gin I've ever had. But
Juniper's a tough sell.
It is. But try a Halle Berry. It is delightful.
Okay.
Now,
all right. I will try the Halle Berry.
Don't hurt yourself on the jalapeno.
Just go a little bit. Go light on it.
Yeah, of course, take out the ribs and the seeds and all that. But yeah. So blackberries, jalapenos, whatever you want. Try it with gin first, and then, like all recipes, try it the way it's supposed to be, and then do your thing. And Cointreau, it's really, really good. I can't wait for you to send me a picture of it.
Of me trying it, too.
Oh, that's going to be great.
I'll go very, very light on the jalapeno for the first one. And then I had some the other night, some margaritas where they had put a little bit of habaneros in there. And it was really good. It was really good at first. And then it just kind of slowly, the heat really built.
Yeah, your lips get on fire. Especially with a margarita. All right, cool. Damaris Phillips, Chef Damaris Phillips, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me. I really appreciate it. And the next time I'm in Louisville or you're in San Antonio, let's holler at each other.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Damaris. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Hey, guys. Steve Owens here. I'm here to tell you about the coolest subscription-based monthly curator of men's fashion, the Menlo Club. Here's how it works. When you sign up at menlohouse.com, you choose your color and style categories. Then, each month, they send several pieces of clothing specially selected for you, all for $60 per month, tax and shipping included. Items like button-ups, both long and short-sleeved, t-shirts, shorts, jeans, pants, sweaters, athleisure wear, even sunglasses and shoes. And as a special deal for my listeners, during the month of August, if you sign up and use promo code FSP, you'll receive 50% off your first month's package, plus a pair of 5-4 brand sneakers and socks. So sign up today at menlohouse.com and use promo code FSP, as in Fascination Street Podcast, at checkout.
Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.